So let's just go back to that section where we're going from here after we finish this, right? So, this is a foundation form, fundamental. So the parallel arms. So where does the parallelism start? It starts from the shoulder, right? So the width of the shoulder is going to be determine where the width of the fingers are. So that's something that we determine from, muscle memory and the principle that we're thrusting out in front of the shoulders. Okay. Then the next movement, sink, that still stays shoulder width. The forearm should be parallel to the floor, right? So that teaches you when you sink your elbow, it's parallel to the floor. But this could be parallel to the floor too, right? So then that determines or tells you that when you sink your elbow, it shouldn't be behind you. In fact, it could be beside you here. Then that's closer than out here. So when you sink your wrist, it's more alongside your body. Okay, so that's something in muscle memory. And then the next movement is cross hands. So cross hands is like this, but it's not close and it's not too extended. It's here where this and this will give you when you extend them, the reference from shoulder to hip. Right? But you fold the wrist. Now here, because it's folded and you open, there's your cutting hand. So your cutting hand becomes part of all the cuts, which is at your waist, right? So when you cut, it ends up here. So any form that you do, the cut would be here. It's not down here, or it's not out there. It's here. So when you cut, when you pick and you cut, and you turn your palm out like that, that's where it should be. If you pick and you cut, or you cut, and it ends up here, and you turn your hand, you see that it's not in the right place. So that's how you kind of determine yourself where it should be. But at the same time, from doing it consistently like that, it knows to go there. Your body only learns from what it's told to do, from the information it's fed. And then when you, through your, programming and understanding in the body, it starts to know to go there. That's a final position for this arm, right? So the rest of your body has positions, like your legs. You know that's about the right stance, about the right width. The body form between here and here. When you cut like this, your body's slightly rounded. When you cut like this, your chest opens and your back actually contracts the opposite way, because movements that are compatible with direction of force have to work together. That's synchronization of the body. So if you're synchronizing your body to do a specific movement, then they have to work together to make sense, right? So if you put logic behind this, if we're doing these techniques and I talk about the summation of components, what does that mean? The different components in your body, the different areas of the musculature that has to work with that movement has to become part of that action. But the conflict comes in, or the sort of the lesser of two evils becomes part of the movement, where the other part doesn't really become part of it. In other words, you're not incorporating the waist, you're not incorporating the torso, and the torso also has direction. So when we're here and we pull down, the direction movement is like this. So when you sink and you pull, there's a combination of things that has to happen. You change your configuration of your body form to give you structural integrity. The direction of movement is downward, following an arc. because our body only creates, okay, shake it all over. Your arms only create arcs. Simply because every time you move, it's coming off of a center point. So if this is my center point, there must be something behind it, but that would be your arm. But when we arc, it goes in a direction. So if this goes down, then this goes down. If this goes down, then this goes down, right? But where the elbow is relative to this direction of movement can be distorted, right? So then if you're not syncing your elbow, then you can't control the movement. So the first thing you have to do in these positions is to sync the elbow. And then that will align the track of the hand coming down. Now when it tracks this way, what do you want to be in the line of this movement? You want the opening of the hand, the tiger's mouth, to be there when you pull down. You don't want to have your elbows out, because then it's like a reaping movement, like you're clawing, but there's no strength there because your elbow, the force went out. So it becomes a curve. Now if I was doing this, maybe that would be necessary, like say a dropping palm, but a dropping palm actually wouldn't go there. A dropping palm on this side would go here, or this side to here, but that's just with the body form, but it's still not good. This would be better like this, because you're using the back fist. But going back to this, sink the elbow and relax the shoulder is one of the principles that we have to. Qim jiao, jiao is elbow. Sui gan is your shoulder. So sinking the elbow and sloping the shoulder. So your shoulders slope because they're down. This would not be sloping your shoulder. This would be lifting your shoulder. So if I go like this and I lift, that created a weakness in the movement. Because what creates the stability in that movement is this. So if this goes up and this goes down, when that goes up, you negate some of the force that's there. Because this joint is the stabilizer, so it has to be down. In the elbows up position, it has to come here. Now, if you're in this position, it's already out there, then when it goes down, it's going to go there, so the hand is not parallel to your body. So that's going to distort the direction of movement, right? So why it has to be in and not out would be the reason for the direction of force. Now, when you go gung kuen and you're like this, and this part of it, and you go elbow up, and you go like this actually is in the corner. It's not to the side. The first one is elbow up. Then when you sink to here, your arm's actually to the corner. Because if the arm is here, it can't be here. You can feel how awkward that feels. This would be the position. But then when you thrust, you don't thrust there. You thrust here. Then you have to pull your back in line again. You see, so those are all parts of manipulation, or manipulating your skeletal structure. And that's what you learn when you do the openings of our forms, because the opening of our forms is teaching us how to use our strength. So teaching us how to use our strength is actually how to use our skeleton. By using our skeleton, we have to use our musculature to manipulate it and drive those movements. So that comes from here. So the mind directs the movement. The mind controls your musculature, and your musculature controls your skeleton. So that's basically what happens. Yeah, thrust. Yeah, shouldn't be, I don't know why other people do it, but I don't actually look. A lot of people look at videos and try to second guess why other people do it. I can only teach what I teach. I really can't teach to them. So, because when you're like this, yeah, if we're thrusting, we're only talking about aligning our body. Why someone else would do it another way, I really don't know. Yeah, but they might be doing a crane movement like that. But the crane movement out here would be not what we would do anyways. So we can only actually judge what we do based on our understanding or based on what I understand. So because second guessing someone else's mistakes would be a mistake in itself. Yeah. So without going into why someone else was doing that, just do this, because then it becomes critical, saying, well, whoever that person is, and I have no idea who it is. Then you sink, and then this is not here, but here. 1, 2, and then like this. Okay. So that's the opening. And fuhak would be the same. When you go like this and you sink and you thrust, the accuracy of that sinking of that bridge and thrusting is important, because if you learn 100 forms and you have one of these in every form and they're all different, then how can you actually become consistent with your motion? So chim kyo byoji, sink just chim kyo byoji is to thrust your fingers. So when you thrust your fingers, it has to be aligned like this for straightness. Now, when the palms are like this and you do a short strike, it could be like this until it gets here. Now, those are like, very depends on the technique. Like when we do this, I tell you to curve this, but this is different from aligning this. So it really depends on your specific technique, because every technique, is a posture. So every posture might be a little bit unique to position. But in this instance, we're here. And then folding like this, dropping your elbows like this is fundamental, because you want this to be parallel. Now, some people do this. Is that, correct? To them, it's correct, right? So, but for us, this is, even though it's more robotic or more, horizontal, vertical, it gives you a body a better standard of recognition sort of approach. You have a neutral standard. It's like throwing a punch shoulder height, and it's very unique to kungfu that we throw punches only here. We don't throw them high, middle, and low typically. We throw them all here, but our low block, middle block goes here. We don't go low like that. So we do that, and probably no one really thinks about it, but to use a guideline of standard and referencing, if you're here and you're punching like this all the time, then eventually this is what your body recognizes as true body form, shoulder height as a reference point. Now, any variant of that would be what you're going to strike as a target. Has nothing to do with your training. Like we do a center line, this is where a center line is. And then when the block is used, it could vary slightly depending on where it is. But this is your standard. And that gives you a reference point so that when you move, it's going to be always there. Because the relative position to your body is what's important. That's your standard. So for us, we have our standard, and there's a reason for those standard positions. And we, from the understanding about the principles and the guidelines, then we have a reference that we can actually relate to and make a determination if it's correct or not. Now, if someone else has a different idea and their referencing is not using their own body, then that could be like way off or different. So nothing is easier to reference than your own body, right? If I say eye level, eyebrow level, then ears. Like if you go through the forms, Tai Chi, 2 punches the ear. Why do they say 2 punches the ear? They use it as a reference. High, center line, sternum. You know, those are references. We always use those references, but a lot of people might not realize why they're doing that. We're doing that so that we know where the hands belong relative to height. Dragon claw should be in front of the nose. So in Gung Kun, so let's get back into the position here and then do this. 1, 2, 3. There's your cross hand. There's your cross hand. Cut, cover. Here's your cross. Now that's crossing, but lower, right? And then corner back fist, which is typically the only corner back fist, right or left side in every form. Okay, and then go, close, and then you step. There's your reference points and your leg work. Step. Okay, so to reference, right? So let's try that again. If you're here and we shift and we're here and we open, this should be a full horse stance. You shift and then come to here. So see where your foot is there? No? Yeah. Why was it over there? Here's the reason for that. Right? The hip. The hip. Yeah, okay. So the hip has to turn. So you see how important the whole body is involved? So that's leg work. So the ma bu, hand, eye, body, waist, and stance. 1, 2, 3, 4. Straight. Then you do your kick. Kick, yeah. And then step down, horse to leaning. That's your trapping hand. Middle block. Front of the shoulder. 1, 2, 3, 4. So your stance should have been closing. So if you're going like this, then you just moved that way. Your goal actually here is to move this way. So it closes. So when you unwind your stance, you should be in the right stance. Now when you're here, you lift high block. High block is eyebrow level. So in your lift, then it should be slightly relax the shoulder. Open the fingertips. Seat your palm, seat your wrist. Stance should be here. Here. Yeah. Like this. Sink in the stance. Yeah. Turn the hip that way. Turn back more. Nope, the other way. Yeah, but don't turn the foot. Yeah. Sink. Don't let that shoulder go back like that. This should be on the hip. See, these are all body forms that you should recognize, but maybe when we go through it, it's not pointed out in detail. But this is what your stance should be. If you look in the mirror, because we came from here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. We have to shift the weight and then put this foot here and turn. Now we actually have to turn a little beyond center, 45 degrees to that corner, and then come back. Okay. So if you don't turn beyond 45 and you stop it here and you follow that stroke, you're over there. Whereas if you turn to this corner and you sink your stance, your chop will be here, more toward the supporting part of your stance, the leg, right? The knee and hip, the sinking hip. Now we turn to here, we sink. So we have to relax and release by sinking. Then we step out the horse, lift the elbow by sinking the elbow, and turn. But when we turn, the elbow doesn't go like this. Because once we're here and we sink, the elbow is lined up with the side of the body, and we turn, so this should become vertical, right? Because the halfway mark for here was here. Right, see? And then turn. Now your shoulder here should be cupped. And then we're going to turn this way and then cut. Right. So we would be here. Turn this way, shift, turn the rest of the body this way, and then cut. And then sit. So you have to, because it's a 180-degree turn, you have to turn, but I can't get it over to here yet. So you don't want to cut from here. You want to cut from here. Because isn't this the cutting hand, right? The pattern for the cutting hand is here. So if we're in this position, we have to turn the body so we have that body form in that direction, so the pattern of movement is going to be effective. So that's what we have to learn to recognize, and then, yeah, but you drop, right? Drop, and then turn the hand on the way down, right? 1, 2, 3. Right? So those are the phases of movement, because we learned 1, 2, 3, 4. But we're turning, right? We're here, right? Where are we? Is this here? 1, 2, 3. It becomes one movement, but it has to sort of abide by what your body is doing at that phase of the motion, in the motion. So then you have to sync that up together to get the timing to be effective, because we don't want this cutting hand and this cutting hand to be different, because when I go like this and I turn like this, if I don't come to here by turning my body, I don't have to turn in the waist here. So. Well, because your stance, every posture and every transition is a little bit different. The hand movement essentially is the same. The body mechanics. Now, when you cut, if you turn it like this, then that gives you the other side of it. Yeah, you're moving out of this line. So, transitions, they're not all created equal, but the pattern's equal. Your pattern's the same. Right, so this one actually is a little bit different, because this is kind of on a lift, this is on the downside. So, but this would be cover, both ending up here. So that's your movement. Yeah. So once you add footwork like that, it's different, because you're moving, but the equal opposite action is the same. The equal opposite action happens, in different places. So let's go back into that position. Let's go from here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, you're offset. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Coming back. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Turn. 4. See? So you really have to preset all your positions before you execute. Because if you don't do that, then your body won't know how to preset when you're going through a form. Because without the preset, you're already halfway into your movement. You never can capture the timing. So that's what happens in the fundamentals. Your body learns the format of all these little things, and as your body starts to pick up on it, it gets more intuitive, it gets more intelligent. And that's what understanding strength is about. Okay, then if you do the other side, it's exactly the same. So Gung Kuen is one of the unique forms that works both sides. So you have a balance in movement. So let's try those two sides, see if you can figure out some of the timing in that. So, step, so you go through the step. Okay, let's start. So every time I see something that someone didn't finish, then I'll stop and we'll do it again, right? So after the kick, you enter the horse stance. What was missing in one of the trapping hands? What's critical in a trapping hand? Right, this. This has to be hooked. Because without this hook, your arm has no integrity. You have to hook. So now, between the shoulder and the hand, you have a rotation. If the hand is relaxed like this and you have rotation, there's no force in it. There's no directional change. Why? Because when you do this, it causes the forearm and the two bones in the forearm to rotate. When that rotates, it creates structural integrity of your arm. Because this is what you're using to move in. If you just go like this, it's not defined enough to create the direction of change. So that's important when you after you kick and you come down to turn. So all of this becomes defined as being on the side of your body. And then you continue. One. So what do you have to do? No, it's not. You have to turn, twist your back, and reset the center. That's presetting your movement. You have to use your back because the back is a motor skill. You don't turn your back. You're not used to turning your back. Then you'll be used to turning your back when you were told to turn your back there, and there. Right? So if you have 500 movements and only 3 of them are the ones that you got told to do, then the rest of it, you say, well, it's not there. I wasn't told to do it. No, it's not like that. You're supposed to understand that your body is involved in everything. Upper lower coordination is tied through your waist. It's upper lower coordination. If you don't use the waist, then you don't have right left lateral motions. You don't have right and left. You only have right or left. So do you want to have the blend of both? Because the moving of right to left has to do with if this hand is here. If I move right, then I move left. Right? If I move left, then I move right. So and part of that action becomes turning. But the turning initially is here to here. Now another dimension change and I turn. So I created an arc. But remember we said earlier that you only can make circles. So even though it's linear in one side, this is linear, this is circular. But then compatible motion. The arc with this worked with the arc with this. The arc with this was created by this or here. So that's happens here. I just did this, right? I just did this, right? So you practice the same movement in the form so that there's a consistency in the action. So where did it learn it? Wherever it happened. So that's what the body has to know. It has to recognize that wherever it shows up, that's it. Wherever it shows up, that's it. So your body will evolve into that. So we're here, right? 1. So you feel it. 2. Reset. settle. No strength. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sink. Lift and turn. Sink and drop. Step. Turn. 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 Sink. Turn. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Sink. Lift. Sink. Drop. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's, shake it out. That's how you have to practice. Because by doing it is the only way your body can recognize it. Everything I talk about is just theoretical until it becomes real in your own body. Your body has to, just through experience, that you just have some consistency. Because still a lot of isolated stuff going on. You get into a position like this and it becomes, you're not engaging the body. When you're here, you have to sink. If you go 1, 2, right? So you have to tie the lower half of your body into. So 1, 2, 3. Lift the back, right? On the side. Lift, right? You forward in the stance. There's just the body. And then go next. So here. So when we're here. 1. 1. So we sink the elbow. So here. 2. 3. 4. Sink. Step. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. See, so each one of those is a muscle memory position, final position, and then each interim position is a muscle memory, because that becomes transitional. So if you're used to coming to here, then when you pass through here, then it passes through. It knows it went through that pattern or that position. So that's what muscle memory is in movement. When your movement is sort of maybe evolving because your body didn't cooperate while you were first learning it, you have to kind of reformat it because there's habits there. So you have to take all the stuff that shouldn't be in there out of it and then reformat it to approach what's more correct. So, but most of us practice form sequentially, just from memory, sequential memory. But body memory is something that you have to go through to learn to evolve for a higher skill level. Maybe some people don't want higher skill level. That's really, it's not really, I can't tell you want higher skill level. It's up to you to want higher skill level because it's an interest. A lot of people take this, some are recreational players, some people do it, for whatever reason. But I think the most important thing is if you have an interest in this and you've been doing it a long time, is to improve the skill level and the understanding of how that happens. So let's just try that section again. Remember, 2 hands, right? And then go. 1. Yeah. So Ari, you're not in your stance. Your knee should be forward more. Yeah. So if I see this knee? That should be in here. More. Yeah. And even more if you can. Yeah. You know, a lot of people that are athletes or whatever, that do a lot of exercise, are told never to put your knee beyond your toe. That's kind of, that's I don't think that is correct. In certain instances it might be, but in movement and in kungfu we transitions through those positions, and I think the main reason why is because most people that do these kind of things are pretty rigid, or they have a lot of load on their legs and it's too much strain. But the thing is, it's because it's pretty isolated. So in movement and your ankles relax, then the knee does go that far. I mean, there isn't any strain in that position. Well, some people don't even do that. If I go even there, it's a little bit beyond. Well, it can only go beyond as long as your bones are, but your ligaments will stop you at a certain point. But if you're in you're in a load-bearing thing where you got 600 pounds like this, then the load is different. We're moving through our normal procedure, so you're passing through those positions, and I don't think you should have to constantly hold back your position because you're afraid your knee's going out too far. Because when you do that, you restrict your own movement. And what that does is hinder. And in fact, what will happen when you stop something and you're always forcing it through or think you're forcing it through, you cause more damage than letting it go. Because you have a conflict. And what you're doing is the muscles are actually working against each other. Whereas the natural motion is to let it go to its point where the tendon would respond and let it stop. Like if you bend like this, or you bend your ankle, there's a point it'll stop. But you can go like this and then restrict the movement and not actually get to the point where you actually free fall. So, that's really part of your training. When you throw a punch, some people put too much power in the movement and they feel like they're hyperextending their elbow. The movement will stop and power will go shy of locking, but you have to train so it knows when to do that. Just like when you kick, the power goes out and the knee almost locks, but it's not locking to the point where you're doing damage because it knows when to stop. And that type of action is the only way you can release power, because if you stop it all the time, I call it putting on the brakes, you're never going to let the ligaments and tendons be free enough to recoil by itself. But on the recoil, that's when it goes to zero and comes back. If you go like this, if you're putting on the brakes, then you have to pull back to do that. So once, if you're fatigued or you're doing that, there's a conflict in the movement in time. There's no power in that. You're sort of stepping on the gas and your brake at the same time. You can't get full throttle acceleration if you got your brakes on. So you don't want to put your brakes on. You want to let it go. Now, because we're practicing this, we know where it stops and starts to recoil on its own. That becomes a cycle. So we have to understand why we do it, other than, well, this is a punching drill. Well, it's a training to get your body conditioned and acclimated to a motion. And eventually the balance in motion becomes something that doesn't have a conflict. Conflict is your body holding back, not letting it completely happen. So, anyways, okay, ready? Bow. So hopefully that was helpful.
We actually kind of do equal and opposite a little bit. My left hand is moving.
Only in mental intent. You don't have to. No, you don't have to. You have to have consciousness of that. It's just like this. You throw a punch, right? And I go like this. Then I have a consciousness of position, but I don't have to actually start to push on it here.
But you could.
If I need to, but I don't have to even.
Right.
So when I'm here, there is still something here as a consciousness of something, but it's not excessive beyond the point where, because if it becomes excessive, you know what happens? It starts to do this, because that means but I did this, but he leaned into me. Well, why didn't I but that was a response because I'm here, and I know. So when I went like this, and you did whatever you did, because I can detect the force coming in. So if I go like this and just meet it, and I go like this and you push, then that's a physical strength. But I didn't do that. I went like this. See, I dissipated the strength by sinking my elbow. Right. Yeah, so.
Conscious.
Yeah, conscious.
So true motion equal this one.
Yeah.
This one's in motion.
Yeah. So when you're here.
Oh, this one actually comes in.
Because my body. Oh.
I don't see it until you showed it to me.
Because if we go like that, then that's just your arm, right?
Oh. See, this is why you stay after class.
Yeah, but don't tilt. It's just horizontal. Yeah.
Oh, I gotta work that one. It's not rigidly still.
Yeah, but it doesn't move. Yeah, it's just part of it.
It's like a koan. It's not rigidly still.
Yeah. Yeah. This is just stuff that happens over time from giving your body a chance to discover and understand this. Yeah.
See, it's the first one that's easy to get isolated. This one is easy, right? And this one's easy too because you get two that are in motion, right? So first one is hard.
Yeah, because when we're first learning anything, it's pretty isolated. So when you're isolated, it becomes that. So your mind only knows to do that. Then as your movements become ingrained in your body, then all these pieces that are involved in that movement start to become part of it, and it's just too much to go through saying this is what's happening, and it's too much for you to try to think about because you have to do it until it feels like this is what it's supposed to be doing.
I mean, I'm feeling
You had stance. Yeah.
feel like it's going down.
Yeah, so you can actually open the knee, yeah, like this way a little. Don't let your knee sink that way in a leaning stance. You let it come this way and then come forward, this way. Yeah, yeah. Okay, now, but then turn the hip this way. See, yeah, and then come forward a little more. Yeah, yeah, and then go.
When I do that, I feel like this is going down. Is that okay?
It's really, it shouldn't be your arm. It should be, if it shifts because the body shift. The shift is it's because the more of your body that's involved in the network.
I mean, it's like this. When you don't do this, you do.
Yeah.
If you do this, it's just.
Yeah. So once your body becomes part of the network of motion, then it's going to have subtle responses. It's just like we're standing here. Even though we're standing here and I don't tip over or I don't fall backwards, there's subtle responses in your body to compensate for the different body positions. That's center of gravity. At a very sensitive center of gravity, if you had a wooden block and you were putting these nails or whatever, arms and legs on this block, you know, if the mass is very heavy and your arms are very thin on that, then nothing would happen. But if you were balanced like on an upside down triangle, or not that extreme, but a little top heavy, and you started adding stuff, eventually it's going to, like that game that they put, like they stack stuff, eventually the thing tips over. So that's what happens to your body, even though eventually it'll tip over. But because we're just compensating constantly, because we know to stand and not to tip over, because you know, all through our life, we know not to fall on our face until, you know, you do fall on your face. And then you said, I shouldn't do that.
I think I do sit, I drop that shoulder like a little bit, and it should drop a little, but it's not like don't lean.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll make this point. All right. If you're doing that, right, if you're going to drop your shoulder, then do more. Do more in stabilizing your legs so you don't wiggle so much in there. And then once you get your body integrated, it shouldn't be noticeable. It just looks like you're doing it the regular way. But when I do this, you don't see me doing anything. You don't see any. Yeah, you don't see it. It's hidden. It's hidden. But you have to know to look for it. See, if you don't see the reason why most people can't find something is because they don't know to look. They don't know that it exists. You can only look for something that exists. It's like you guys that invent things. Why do everyone wants to copy everybody? Because they want an inkling of what's there that they're missing, so that they don't have to find it. When you're discovering whatever it is, like your computer or outer space, when someone already has a head start on you, you want to know what they're doing. Well, this is kungfu, So no one's going to spend any time doing that because they're not getting paid to do it. But if you have a job that's hard, then everybody's trying to steal each other's technology, because this is kind of a technology. But you don't know to look for it unless you kind of been exposed to it. You don't know it exists.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of times.
Preset.
That meant a lot to me.
Yeah. 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 Every class is different.